Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1812B, and today's date is March 11th, 2019, and the title of the episode is, This Is Not a Game, Indictments, Arrest, Declass, Truth Activated. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about the deep state. We know they continually push their goals, and we know that they try every trick in the book to scare the American people. And one of the best things you can invest in for your home and for your protection is a Patriot flashlight. Now, this flashlight is solar powered, so you're never going to waste money on batteries again. It has emergency strobe light, it has a USB port, it has a compass, rope, wire cutter, and a siren to ward off individuals. Patriot flashlight is the perfect gift for you and your family. Go to patriotflashlight.com, use the promo code X20 and get 20% off the Patriot flashlight. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we hear the term trust the plan, and we have to remember, a lot of the plan is not given to us. A lot of it is kept behind closed doors. And there's a reason for this, because they don't want the deep state understanding what the full plan is. Q does give us information. Q does tell us about certain things, but a lot of it is kept behind closed doors. And there's a reason for all of this, because the deep state, if they knew the entire plan, they would figure out how to counter the next move. And this is why Q, patriots, continually say, trust the plan. It's not something they just wrote down on a napkin when Trump came into office. This was planned a long time ago, and they knew the deep state was deep and wide. I'll give you an example. Every time you hear trust Sessions, Q is telling us, listen, trust Sessions, he's part of the plan, and he's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing in regards to his part of the plan. Now, I know Trump is out there tweeting, or you hear him speaking, that, oh, I should have never hired Sessions. I never should have brought him in. He didn't do anything. He recused himself. This is not for the Annans. This is for the deep state. This is for the mainstream media. He's continually keeping them going on the fact that he really didn't care about Sessions. He didn't do anything. He was lazy. In the meantime, Sessions behind the scenes was doing quite a bit in regards to his part of the plan. Trump is feeding disinformation to the mainstream media and to the rest of the public, saying that, you know something, he was worthless, he did nothing. But in fact, he did a lot. So when you hear certain terms and you hear certain things happening, you have to break it down, and I believe this is why Q continually tells us to think logically. Think about what is happening here. Is there a reason why Trump didn't make a deal in North Korea? Is there a reason why something's going on in Venezuela? Is there a reason? And there's always a very specific reason. We might not understand it right off the bat. Later on, we can go back and say, now it makes sense. Trump, think about North Korea, for instance. He was out there saying that, our button is bigger than your button. He called Kim Jong-un, Rocket Man or Fat Boy. This was all part of disinformation for the mainstream media. In the meantime, while all this was going on, there were peace talks happening behind the scenes. No one realized that this was going on. Everyone thought we were going to war. They just saw North Korea firing missiles. Couldn't understand it. They were testing nuclear weapons. And it looked pretty darn bad. And then all of a sudden, everything just changed. All of a sudden, we're talking about a summit, about peace. And every once in a while, the mainstream media comes up and they tell us that things are really bad because Trump is allowing the mainstream media, the intelligence agencies, believe they are in control. And he lets them do what they do best, push propaganda. And then all of a sudden, Trump turns everything around. And their propaganda turns out to be just that, propaganda. And each time this happens, it proves the mainstream media, the intelligence organizations, the deep state, they're pushing fake news. Think about Russian collusion. All they did was push, push, push. The mainstream media never even questioned it. They just kept on pushing what they were told to push. And it turns out to be fake. When Trump came out and said, Obama was spying on me, everyone laughed. No one believed it. That's impossible. Obama would never do that. Now it turns out it's much deeper than what even Trump tweeted out. We see with Jeffrey Epstein. We know he has the Epstein Island. Mike Cernovich was out there, and it looks like the Second Circuit Court, well, they've sided with Cernovich. He tweeted out the following. The Second Circuit Court of Appeals has sided with Cernovich, ordering records unsealed in Jeffrey Epstein case unless good cause is shown. We'll have to wait to see what happens, but this information should be unsealed. And we should see what was really going on with all of this. Remember, Epstein got off because the prosecutor broke the law. The White House is looking into it right now. We see Judicial Watch. They are filing an ethics complaint against Adam Schiff over his shady contacts with Glenn Simpson and Michael Cohen. Judicial Watch said Representative Schiff has an ethics problems. His and his staff's irregular communications with an anti-Trump witness reflect poorly on the credibility of the House and its committee's investigations. It has long been apparent that Representative Schiff can't be trusted to lead the Intelligence Committee. So we hope that Democrats on the Ethics Committee stop protecting Mr. Schiff and take action. And he's absolutely right. I mean, the report came out that Schiff spent 10 hours with Cohen going over and over what he was going to say. Now, out of the Daily Caller, and Trump did retweet this, the headline news is Dark Money Organization gave $2 million to group working with Fusion GPS and Steele. So, out of the Daily Caller, it says a dark money group based in California contributed $2 million to the Democracy Integrity Project, the organization that has contracted with Fusion GPS and Christopher Steele to investigate Trump. The Democracy Integrity Project founder, a former staff for Senator Dianne Feinstein, has acknowledged to the FBI that the group provides information to the press, lawmakers, and investigators. Funding for a Better Future is the second Democracy Integrity Project donor to have been identified. George Soros gave $1 million to the group. So Fund for a Better Future donated about $2 million to the Democracy Integrity Project in 2017, and this is according to the IRS filings. According to the FBF's most recent audit, the organization has 4 main donors, none of whom are identified. One other prominent TDIP donor has been publicly identified, and that was Soros, who donated $1 million. So here we have dark money is being used to fund GPS, Christopher Steele, and the rest. And I'm sure we're going to be finding out who these identified donors are, most likely very soon. We see at the border, we're having a problem with the illegal immigrants. About 2,200 illegal immigrants had to be quarantined because of an unprecedented disease outbreak. And they're saying they're carrying mumps, chickenpox, influenza, you name it, they have it, probably the measles too. And they're saying that this is a really big problem. Again, think about Obama bringing in the illegals, allowing them to jump over the border, putting them on buses, and transporting these individuals to all different cities. And they're not vetted whatsoever. And they're just brought wherever. They could be gang members, they could have disease, they could have who knows what. And this is a major problem. And there is a national emergency on the border. Out in Venezuela, we see that the blackout is still happening, and they're trying to bring all power back online. They're blaming this on a cyber attack, saying the cyber attack is stopping us from bringing the power back online. And most likely, it was the deep state, the neocons, who push their agenda in Venezuela. We've seen this before in Syria, where they black out the entire city and they move in with their operation. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio blamed the recent power outages in Venezuela on an explosion at the German dam in the Bolivar state. Well, there was a problem with this. There is no German dam. Rubio mistook journalist German dam's name for an actual site in Venezuela. And he tweeted out the following: "Today, another transformer explosion at the German dam in Bolivar state caused another massive blackout." And again, that didn't happen. He kind of messed up with that. But he knew certain things right after the blackout. And Venezuela is saying, how did he know this? Because local authorities didn't even know about this, which means he had some insider information. Now, out in North Korea, we see the U.S. Special Representative for North Korea. He is saying that diplomacy is still very much alive in North Korea. And I'm still saying that Kim Jong-un most likely will be writing a letter to Trump asking to continue with negotiations. Trump is going to report this to the mainstream media once they hammer out a deal. And once again, the mainstream media is going to look absolutely foolish. Let's get into Q's post. This is post 3019. Q gave us an NSA link, and this is May 2018 puzzle periodical. Shall we play a game? Computer tic-tac-toe. So this month, this is back in May of 2018, the NSA's puzzle periodical pays tribute to the 1983 motion picture War Games. In the movie, a supercomputer is programmed to play tic-tac-toe. Q says, shall we play a game? How many tweets has POTUS forwarded in the past 12 hours? Some say 10, some say 11. Primary topics: Steele, Dossier, or Clinton, Fusion GPS, Schiff, HR1, border. Q says, March Madness? And we have to remember what March Madness is. March Madness is the NBA playoffs. So Dick Vitale, he loves using brackets. And when he's trying to break down who's going to win and who's going to be in the playoffs, he has this whole bracket system. And I believe this is what Q is asking us to kind of create. And what's even more interesting, as he's speaking, he says there's an allstatebrackets.com predictor that will predict who's going to win in the playoffs. But for our brackets, I don't think this site is going to work. But I do believe that Q wants us to break it down to make it look just like what Dick Vitale does when he's trying to figure out who is going to be indicted, who's going to be arrested, and how this is all going to play out until we get to the end. Q says, do you have your brackets filled in? Q, now we know, Stroke, Page, Comey, Clinton, Obama, Schiff, Brennan, Clapper, and the rest of the gang, and the rest, they're all going to be included in all of this. Q is getting us prepared for what is coming. Post 3020, Jordan Sather tweeted out the following. This is the link that Q gave us. From 2016, but as relevant as ever. And this is: the CIA is investing in firms that mine your tweets and Instagram photos. And it went on to say, yet among the 38 previously undisclosed companies receiving In-Q-Tel funding, the research focus that stands out is social media mining and surveillance. The portfolio documents list several tech companies pursuing work in this area, including Data Miner, Geofedia, Pathar, and Transvoyant. Those four firms, which provide unique tools to mine data from platforms such as Twitter, presented at a February CEO Summit in San Jose sponsored by the fund, along with other In-Q-Tel portfolio companies. The investment appears to reflect the CIA's increasing focus on monitoring social media. Social media also offers a wealth of potential intelligence. So what does Q say? Why did Snowden only attack the NSA? Well, first of all, he worked for the CIA. They wanted to remove the CIA, make them look like they weren't trustworthy, and this way the CIA would be only intel organization in town collecting data. Q says, where did Snowden work prior to NSA? He worked for the CIA. Why did Snowden pick Russia as his safe place? Well, Snowden sold information to the Russians. Brennan and many others had contacts in Russia, and they knew if they kept this going, they would keep him safe. What events occurred directly after release of NSA packs? How do you avoid data privacy laws? Charter of NSA? Well, that's global surveillance. Charter of Agency, which is the CIA. They're foreign surveillance. DARPA, with an arrow pointing to LifeLog, pointing to Facebook. Define surveillance state. A surveillance state is a country where the government engages in pervasive surveillance of large numbers of citizens and visitors. Matters of national security? No. Accepted reality? Yes. Why was the NSA targeted? To get rid of them. Why was the agency protected and sheltered? To make sure they were the ones who would be gathering all information on everybody. Post 3021. Q puts up a New York Times article. Security breach and spilled secrets have shaken the NSA to its core. This went on to say a serial leak of the agency's cyber weapons has damaged morale, slowed intelligence operations, and resulted in hacking attacks on businesses and civilians worldwide. So when you read this article, it seems like the New York Times was in on the CIA agenda to get rid of the NSA, and they were putting out hit pieces on the NSA. Q says, at Snowden, parades or restraints? So Q is asking, is Snowden a hero or is he a criminal? Should we have parades or should he go to prison? Brackets bold 2019 Q. Post 3022 gives us everything from post 3021 and says, connect the dots. At Snowden released code words NSA keys. At Snowden travels to Russia. Shadow brokers release actual code NSA keys. Shadow brokers originate in Russia. Can you make the connection why at Snowden went to Russia? Safe. Selling info to Russia via the CIA. Can you make the connection who provided the source code to shadow brokers? Well, first of all, what is a shadow broker? The shadow broker is a hacker group who first appeared in the summer of 2016. They published several leaks containing hacking tools from the NSA, including several zero-day exploits. Specifically, these exploits and vulnerabilities targeted enterprise firewalls, antivirus software, and Microsoft products. The shadow brokers originally attributed the leaks to the Equation Group threat actor, who had been tied to the NSA's Tailored Access Operation Unit. The shadow broker is an individual at the head of an expansive organization which trades in information, always selling to the highest bidder. The shadow broker appears to be highly competent at its trade. All secrets that are brought and sold never allow one customer of the broker to gain a significant advantage, forcing the customer to continue trading information to avoid becoming disadvantaged, allowing the broker to remain in business. Q says define spook. A spook is the agent tasked with erasing an issue, differing from a spy. A spook does not exist on paper anywhere. They are black op kites. At moment's notice, they can be cut loose with absolutely no repercussions on an agency. Define shadow. Someone who travels behind or pursues another. Spy, a secret watcher, someone who secretly watches other people. Do spooks hide in the shadows? Yes. Stand strong, Gina. Q. Let's move on to post 3023. Gives us everything from post 3022. Q says, who was agency director from 2012 to 2016? Well, Brennan was actually the director of Central Intelligence Agency from March 2013 to 2017 of January. This is in brackets in bold, all caps, agency director. Under it, it has John Perry Barlow, caps, bold, kill brackets. Well, John Perry Barlow, he was the founding member of the Electronic Frontier Foundation and the Freedom of the Press Foundation. Q says, how did we know prior to? So Q saying, how did the Q team know that John Perry Barlow was going to be murdered? Most likely because of the Keystone and Angel Fire. Dropbox, which was used for Freedom of the Press Foundation, was compromised by the CIA. Q. Post 3024 gave us a Twitter link, and this is from Snowden. It says, note, Gina Haspel participated in a torture program that involved beating an innocent pregnant woman's stomach, anally raping a man with meals he tried to refuse, and freezing a shackled prisoner until he died. She personally wrote the order to destroy 92 tapes of CIA torture. After Trump congratulated Gina Haspel becoming the CIA director in 2018, Snowden went after her, trying to discredit her. The question is why? Well, Gina was a Russian expert. She was also stationed in London. She was the London station chief. She most likely knows everything about the Uranium One, Spygate, and what Snowden did. Q says, banking on Hillary Clinton to win. Yes, Snowden was banking on this. Q says, you never thought she would lose. Q says, banking on Brennan to bring you home. Yes. You never expected a new director to be appointed. Agency rogue elements still in control of operation. No. Gina, ex-UK division, open attacks. 3UD-HG. Q says to Snowden, and this whole conversation is really to Snowden, not to the Annans. What do you have left to sell to Russia to retain your safety and security? Most likely nothing. The people that were keeping him safe, feeding him info, they're now gone. He is alone. Q says, welcome home, at Snowden. Q. So it looks like Q is telling us that Snowden is going to be brought back to the United States. Post 3025 gave us a post from January 27, 2018. It says, at Snowden, the clock is ticking. How's Russia? Mr. Contractor in brackets, Freedom of the Press, John Perry Barlow. Gives us a link to freedom.press. Secure drop, whistleblower, question mark. Secure drop with an arrow, clowns in America. Nobody is safe. Q. Down below, it says John Perry Barlow, posted January 27th, 2018. John Perry Barlow was dead February 8th, 2018. Reconcile. This is not a game. Now, most likely, Brennan had Barlow, 187, murdered. CIA had knowledge of everything. Barlow, most likely, knew way too much. And remember, the CIA had control over Dropbox. It was compromised. And remember, CIA also had control of the social media outlets and everything else. So any whistleblower that was coming through the freedom.press site and dropping their information in Dropbox, the CIA knew everything there. And they knew Barlow was most likely reading it and knowing all about it. So they were watching and collecting intel on Barlow. And it looks like he knew too much, so they needed to get rid of him. So he probably knew what the CIA, what Snowden, what they were all up to. And then all of a sudden, boom. They said, we can't have him around. And they got rid of him. And he died February 8th, 2018. And Q, they knew about this and mentioned it back in January. Remember, Q and team, they are using Angel Fire, the keystone, against the CIA to predict what they're going to do next. So you can see the Patriots are in control. They know what's going on. They know all. And the deep state operators, they're in trouble right now because they're no longer in control. We are headed to the point where there's going to be unsealed indictments. Arrests are going to be made. All of the things that have been hidden from the public, that is going to be coming out. You could say the truth has been activated, and we are now counting down. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.